Senator Dole, Senator Roberts, nice to see both of you.
Thank you, Greta.
All right, you got a great project going, a memorial for President Eisenhower, is that right?
That is correct. Dwight David Eisenhower, a great general, a great president, a man who liberated millions during World War II, a man who preserved Western democracy from Adolf Hitler's Third Reich, and then gave us 8 years of peace and prosperity. I don't know of anybody that is more deserving than Dwight David Eisenhower, than Ike, is of a memorial on the Mall. And we're close. We have come through the Fine Arts Commission, and we got their approval. We have gone through the National Capital Planning Commission and got their approval. It's been 16 years of hard work. Now we get to the fundraising. And I am delighted that my good friend and my mentor, my hero here to my right, and a man who is beloved in Kansas as well as Ike is now going to head up the national finance effort. He's going to be our chairman of heading up the financial efforts, and that is under Robert Dole, and I am so happy he has accepted this.
Senator Dole, I remember when you were working to get the World War II memorial up and running, and what a magnificent memorial that is. This memorial to honor President Eisenhower is real important to you, isn't it? It's real important to you.
Oh, very important, because I had, well, it's important to both of us. We're both from Kansas, and of course we're a little biased, but he was one of America's greatest men in history. I mean, as Pat has said, he's done all these things, and I don't know what language we'd be speaking now if it hadn't been for Eisenhower, and whether we'd have television and business and whatever might want to go on would be under some other type of rule. But I had an opportunity to visit President Eisenhower when he was still in the White House. I was coming to Congress and he was leaving the White House, and then I met with him a couple of times in the hospital, and of course then he was my supreme commander when I served in Italy. And as Senator Roberts says, we've been 16 years since Congress authorized this memorial, and it still has not been built. And some of us older World War II veterans would like to be there for the dedication. And so we need to start, and we're going to try to raise the money privately. And I might add that you were the first contributor.
Not the biggest, but it may have been one of the first. But you know, there's so much people don't know about Eisenhower. They remember Eisenhower in terms that he was a general, that he was led D-Day, helped plan D-Day. But even as president, he was he supervised the desegregation of the military. He sent federal police down, or marshals down to Little Rock to enforce desegregation of the school. I mean, there's so much the American people. I mean, he was a hero in so many ways.
Well, he had the interstate highway system. There's a whole laundry list you can go down that he did during his tenure as president. I think some of the historians sort of view him as a grandfather president. I think he gave us peace and prosperity. He gave us that aberration that we experience every once in a while, and that is peace and prosperity and stability. I think now he's probably number 7, number 5, rated by the historians once they are rediscovering Ike, and then of course being one of the greatest generals of all time. How on earth do you bring together people like Churchill and de Gaulle and Patton, Montgomery, especially Montgomery, and you know, people like that, to win that war and free thousands from the death camps and liberate people all over Europe, so Europe can still be Europe. There's a question today about what's happening with that. We need Ike to come back and do the job.
But it's so interesting. It's that so many Americans in my generation, their parents or grandparents, you know, worked so hard in World War II, and you know, some of them probably are going to want to donate to this as well. I mean, because this, I mean, they should want to donate to this. We're
going to go after school children. You know, they can give pennies as they did at the World War II Museum, and get everybody involved, not just the veterans, there are not enough of us left. There are only 850,000 World War II veterans left out of 16.5 million. And of course, Ike ended the Korean War too, and those guys and gals are getting a little older. But my view is it's going to be not easy, but not too difficult to raise $150 million. We have an advisory committee with outstanding people, you know, Tom Brokaw, General Powell, Bush 41, Bush 43, James Baker, George Mitchell, Tom Daschle. I mean, all well-known names, and there are many others. But, you know, and Pat's done most of the work because he's chairman of the Real Commission. And they've been struggling, we've got about 6 knuckleheads in Congress. Unfortunately, they're Republicans who've been holding this up for several years.
Well, there's just some people that do not think that federal funding should be used for a memorial, although that's been done for previous presidents. But that's an ongoing effort on my part and on the part of the commission, and we'll be talking to the appropriate appropriators to see what can be done. So we'll keep working on that. Rest assured.
But I kind of think Ike would rather we build it with private funds.
I don't think there's any question about that.
I don't think he wants any taxpayer funds used to build any tribute to him. That's my view. You know, he's one of these Midwestern, common sense, frugal, and he learned his values from his mother and his brothers. And I don't know, I'm excited about making the effort. And if I fail, then I'll turn it back to Pat.
Well, I tell you what, there's another aspect to this, and that's to raise funds internationally. Many of these countries that were obviously involved in World War II, there's still a deep feeling of gratitude toward America and Eisenhower. They still like Ike, and they know Ike, and they recognize Ike. So I think that there's a good opportunity for us. Taiwan has already given us $1 million. And so I think we could explore that, and I think that's entirely appropriate.
I think it's fair if someone wanted to give $50 million, you both would have lunch with them? If someone gave $50 million, you'd give up a lunch?
$50 million, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And dinner.
And what would you get for $100 million?
You get 2 days of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Maybe a week.
Maybe a week.
Right.
Yeah, we put you up in a good hotel, too.
Maybe put a statue of you down a bit from Eisenhower.
Maybe, but if you give $1 million, you do get your name on the wall as a permanent donor. I mean,
that's correct.
And that's to honor the contribution you're making to try to make this project.
That's correct.
You know.
Now we're volunteers. We don't need our name on the wall. We need to get this built, and there has been some opposition from family members, but we think we're just going to forget Congress, as far as I'm concerned, and go ahead and get it done.
I sure hope my generation, which has been the recipient of that generation, will step up. You know, because it is, our parents, our grandparents who did it, and look how the world is so different because of what happened for so many people, but Eisenhower, of course, represents so much.
If you remember Eisenhower and what he did and how he did it, and compare what's happening today, what a paradox of enormous irony that we find ourselves almost in the same kind of situation. When Hitler was making all sorts of threats, now we have Putin, now we have the Iran situation, we have the world in turmoil, we have refugees fleeing to Europe where Europe won't even be Europe. We could learn the lessons of Eisenhower and how to get things done.
Well, I think too, Pat, he was able to work with Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
Everybody respected Ike, and he'd never been in politics, so I think he did a great job, and I think this should have been done, years ago. And now we're trying to, as I said, to get it done in time for maybe 15 or 20 World War II veterans to be at the dedication.
Including Bob Dole.
I want to be one of them, but if not me, somebody else. And Korean veterans, because they're all, you know, Ike is their hero too because he ended the war.
Yes, he did. He went to Korea. He said he would go to Korea during the campaign. He went to Korea. He talked to the Chinese, and he talked to the North Koreans and the South Koreans and said, this is it. And he had that capability to do that into the war.
So the message is anyone who gets a phone call from you to accept the phone call, right? Not to dodge your phone calls?
Oh, no, don't dodge phone calls. We can have a good conversation about anything.
No, if they call, we're going to ask for money.
Well, what's your first offer when you ask for money? What do you ask for at first?
Well, first I get their phone number, and then I kind of figure out in advance, would this be $500 or $5 million? We'd like a few of those, and maybe even 10 or 15. But we've got a pretty good list of people that we're going to start contacting after this announcement.
Yes, sir.
And
You'll get it done.
And of course, if anyone wants, can just go to the website and contribute. You don't have to be contacted, or anyone can call you with big contributions.
Yes, ma'am, that is the case.
Anyway, thank you both, and you know, we got to get this done.
Thank you, Greta.
Thank you for your contribution.
You're welcome.